What's going on, guys? Rdap Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope everybody's having a great Taco Tuesday. We're running a few minutes early here. We've got another minute or so before scheduled stream. So give everybody a couple minutes to join us. If you haven't done so, take a moment, like, subscribe, share. We've got links to everything in the description of this video. So there's a consultation link specifically for Rdap. And if somebody's trying to find out for Rdap qualifications and whatnot, there is a link in the description of this video. So there's links to everything we're going to be talking about today. And yeah, we'll give everybody a moment here while I enjoy this cup of coffee at 6 p.m. Shelly's going to hate me later. So I apologize for last night. We were supposed to do this yesterday. I used two different streaming softwares, and the one that I like to use that has a little bit better of graphics and whatnot. And hopefully you guys will let me know if the audio and video is matching up. If not, it's nothing I can do about it because I'm using StreamYard and I'm not thrilled with their streaming software. Restream is the one that I really enjoy. Everything seems to work a little bit better on Restream. But if you're in the room, if this is your first time joining us at Federal Prison Time Consulting, I am a federal prison consultant. I do not just do consulting on Rdap, the Residential Drug Abuse Program. We do consulting in all aspects of preparation for federal prison, preparation for sentencing, preparation for the pre-sentence interview. We also work with individuals once they go in, programs they can qualify, First Step Act, helping you out with additional halfway house, home confinement, things of that nature. And just to kind of clear up a lot of the misconception, to, put to bed some of these myths that we hear about. So give everybody a couple minutes here to join us. If you're in the room, go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know where you're from. If this is your first time, go ahead and put a first time viewer in here. And yeah, we'll jump into this, guys. We've got some screen sharing we're going to do here. We'll try to make this video not too long and not too boring. It's really hard to make content regarding prison preparation interesting. Like how do you make it fun and exciting to get ready to go to prison, right? Prison for me was overwhelmingly positive, which you guys have heard me say multiple times in the past. One of the best things that I really took away from the prison system. What's going on, Wendy Jones? What's going on, Juan? Welcome, welcome. One of the biggest things I took away was my health, fitness, and kind of mindful and awareness. And I've just recently really gotten back into the physical fitness aspect of things. My face is actually a little bit red. I got out and got quite a bit of sun today. But I've been putting the miles on. I've been walking about 5 miles, 3 to 4 times a week, combination of walking, running, push-ups, things like this, kind of typical prison workouts, burpees. I got back up to like 215 pounds, which is not where Dan likes to be. But yeah, that's, people that are getting ready to go to prison, they're really terrified about, what's it going to be like? What's the yard going to be like? And for most of you that are going to either a camp or a low, and even some mediums, you really have a chance to do things that you haven't had time to do in a long time. We do have time, right? Most of us have time. We just don't make the time. And I've been pushing myself to go out and make the time. I even went out and bought myself one of these fancy Apple Watches. Finally, I upgraded from a Fitbit. So we're going to jump into this. We got a few people in the room. I'm surprised we've got 7 people watching right now, being that it's been a little while since we've been making the videos. We've been extremely busy. There's just been so much information going on with Rdap and the First Step Act and COVID, and people that are trying to get out on CARES Act, home confinement through CARES Act, and then home confinement through something like compassionate release, and not knowing the differences. There's just so many various ways to kind of skin the cat here. But today, the reason why we're really focusing on Rdap is there's just been there's just been some really shady shit going on, to be honest, where a lot of these other companies out there, and some of these companies that I've spoken very good things about in the past, that are just somewhat misleading individuals into how they can qualify for Rdap, if they qualify, if they don't qualify. It just seems like they're, running the cash register and then kind of dipping out on the back end. So First off, for those of you that are interested in taking the residential drug abuse program, I highly suggest, there's a link in the description of this video to book a consultation for a one-on-one consultation. It's a little longer than our normal consultation. There'll be a little bit more information going over document reviewing. So there is a fee associated with that consultation. I know everybody hates fees, but a lot of time goes into these. So if you want to, we'll share the screen here. And if you click on the link in the description of the video, add to stream, there we go. This is the link that you will click on, and I'll go ahead and drop that link in there as well so you guys can see it right on the live chat here. If anybody wants to hop on there, here's a link for the consultation. And you'll see when you're in here on the consultation page, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger so some of you old men and women can see what I'm looking at here. It'll bring you to this page. You'll select a date and time. So let's say you wanted to do tomorrow at 9 a.m. You'll hit 9 a.m., confirm, and then it's just basic info. We've got name, put your phone number, obviously, what were you charged with, or what, and if you can also do this on behalf of somebody else. So if you're doing this on the behalf of a loved one, what was the charge? Have you had the pre-sentence interview? If you have a copy, please email it to dan@federalpresentime.com. Then, you've got some options here. No, what is that? Yes, I have a copy. Yes, I don't have a copy. Just pick the ones that qualify, that verify to you. What stage in the process? I've not yet been indicted. I've taken a plea deal. I've been sentenced. I'm currently in prison. I'm currently in Rdap. There's individuals that are in Rdap, and for some reason, maybe they're not getting the time off and they don't understand why. They think they should be. And there's just all of these illusions that go on with this. Then we're just going to ask you to provide some details regarding the reason for the call. Send text messages too. You put your phone number in there, and then you go down there, you pay a fee. It's $195 for the consultation. The good thing is once you pay that fee, if you decide to use us as your consultant for any of our services, that fee will be applied to any future services that we have to offer you. So that's good news. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump back over here to just my beautiful face. All right, there we go. All right, so let's talk about some of the misconceptions with Rdap. And lately, this has really been a big one. I thought this would have been kind of weeded out through the years with enough videos and content going out there. But yet we still get calls probably once a week or an email once a week, maybe every other week, sometimes more than not. But it's the judge recommended Rdap. The probation officer told me I was going to get into Rdap. My attorney told me I was going to get into Rdap. I had a call last week where an individual they asked me what prisons have Rdap because the judge told them to pick the prison they want to go to so they can go to that prison to do Rdap. And I know most of you know the answer to this, and most of you are going, oh, wow, that's not how it works. But this video is for the people that don't know. And, it's okay not to know because it's seemingly the system seemingly is one and the same, right? We think that what goes on in the court is also part of the prison system. What a lot of people don't understand is that the court system, the judicial side of it, has no say-so as to what the BOP is going to do. Once the judge imposes a sentence, your probation, any fines, things of that nature, the whole reason why most of you that are on self-surrender, the reason why the self-surrender is, anywhere from 30, 60, 90 days or even longer out, part of the reason is all of your paperwork has to get sent over to processing center in usually Grand Prairie, Texas for the BOP, where they determine your designation, they determine your custody level, they determine what programs you might qualify for. And they're the ones that are going to determine whether or not, what prison you're going to go to. You can ask for a recommendation. The recommendation definitely doesn't hurt to ask for. So I would definitely make a recommendation or ask your attorney to ask for a specific prison, but make sure you do your homework on the prison you're asking for first. A lot of people will ask for a prison, they think Rdap, so they look at a prison as Rdap, and maybe they don't understand the difference between a camp or a low custody or a medium. And they start asking to go to a prison, or it's a women's only prison. And, the attorneys don't really know this information. It's nothing against the attorneys. It's just isn't the area that they practice in. Most of them don't know the specific ins and out of each individual prison. That's what we focus on. And we don't always know everything. We make sure we find out before we give information. But that's part of it, is knowing what the recommendation is going to be. So if the judge says, I recommend RDAP, it's in your judgment and committal. But if you don't have information in your pre-sentence report, guys, so after most of you plead guilty, and some of you do go to trial, we have clients that go to trial as well. And if you plead guilty, you do your pre-sentence interview after you go in front of the judge, plead guilty. Sometimes it's the same day, but most of the time it's not. It's usually a couple of weeks out. You'll go to the pre-sentence interview where you're going to sit down with U.S. probation, and they're going to go through a bunch of Q&A questions. Your finances, which you'll have a financial worksheet you'll fill out. They're going to ask things about your family, your mental health, substance abuse. And a lot of times in the substance abuse area, this is where people run into some roadblocks. Is they're either ashamed, they're embarrassed, they think somehow it's going to hurt them. Maybe the attorney told you not to say anything. Maybe your attorney didn't even go to your pre-sentence interview with you. Maybe it was over the phone or on a Zoom call, and the attorney wasn't present, or the attorney wasn't really paying attention, because it's usually such a run-of-the-mill type of a process. It's normally very similar to the attorney. But if you don't disclose your substance abuse use, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, prescription pills, even if you're not sure if it's something that qualifies, bring it up during that probation interview. Problem is usually the probation officer might ask you, do you have a substance abuse problem? And maybe you've been on pre-trial for a year and a half. You got indicted a year ago, 2 years ago, and you're thinking they're talking about right now. Are you using anything? And you're like, oh, no, I don't want to get myself in trouble and get violated. It could be, end up in a harsher sentence, or this could revoke my pretrial bond, and they could, remand me right now. All of these things are going to put me in all kinds of treatment programs. When I get out of prison, I'm going to have to be in like these halfway houses and treatment programs for the rest of my life. It's going to be on my permanent record. Anytime I get a job, they're going to see that I have a substance abuse problem. No. And this is part of, knowing how to handle this and knowing how to prepare for the interview. Preparing for the interview doesn't mean give you all the answers so you can, get over on the system. That's not what these videos, what our services are intended to do. What they're intended to do is to educate you, to let you know that if you do drink, even if you don't think you're an alcoholic, let's say you drink on somewhat of a regular basis, you drink a couple of times a week or once a week, or you go out on the weekends, a happy hour with friends, unless you're a chemical dependency professional and that this is what your job is, and you've got those special letters at the end of your name, maybe you're not the best person to determine whether or not you have any kind of chemical dependency issues. So you want to disclose all of this information. And what we do with our clients, and we do this with all of our clients, not just the ones that failed to mention this. Even if you're in the brand new phase right now, you just got indicted, you haven't done your pre-sentence interview yet, we're still going to have you fill out a substance abuse intake form, which is going to go over everything from the time that you first drank alcohol to the time that you first, used marijuana, to the time that maybe you first used cocaine, whatever the drug, whether it's illicit or a prescription, whether you have a marijuana card or whether it's just beer. We're going to make sure we get a timeline on that, from the frequency of use to the daily use to the quantity of use when you use it to the type of alcohol that you're drinking. All of this gets documented. So when you do go into the pre-sentence interview, if the probation officer is maybe rushing you through it or not asking all of the questions, you'll have a document to give them that's going to have an outline of all of this. And then for those of you that have already maybe done your pre-sentence interview and you failed to disclose this information, and not because it's not true, but because, again, out of fear, embarrassment, whatever it might be, you didn't want to talk about it, thought you're going to get in trouble. Whatever the reason is, if the issue does exist, then with that same intake form that you'll fill out, we'll give that to our chemical dependency professional, and he'll determine whether or not he feels that you might be a candidate. If they determine you are, then they'll do an interview with you. They'll go through a process. If you check the boxes, you'll have a report that's generated that will be sent into the prison. And if you're at a prison that does not have RDAP, it would just go to the prison psychologist, because they can also qualify you for RDAP. And then at which point, if you're deemed that you're a fit for it, you can be transferred to a facility that has the program. And if you're already at the facility, it would go to the RDAP coordinator at the facility. It does get harder when you don't mention the information on your pre-sentence interview. When it's not on that report, it can be a little bit tougher. Even if you have the substance abuse evaluation done and you met with the chemical dependency professional and you've got an awesome report, the probation officer, the RDAP coordinator or the prison psychologist could come to the conclusion that, oh, you're just saying this now because you found out about the program and you're trying to get the time off. Unfortunately, they shouldn't have that kind of power. They should do their own evaluation, I would think, and kind of, follow up to really determine and deem whether or not you are somebody that qualifies for these programs. Because if you really think of how this works, most of you, let's say you're indicted, we'll say a year ago today. We're in, what month are we in? We're in April, right? We're almost Easter. April, today is the 12th. So April 12th, you got indicted April 12th. Finally took your plea deal. You're going to go in and do your pre-sentence interview, and they're going to ask you about your substance abuse, but the timeline that they're interested in, well, not the timeline they're interested in, the timeline that qualifies you for RDAP is 12 months prior to the indictment of the instant offense or the arrest of the instant offense up until the indictment. So if you got arrested or indicted a year ago today, and you're just now doing your pre-sentence interview, and you tell them, yes, I had a drinking problem back then, well, it's the same thing as having a report generated from a chemical dependency professional, because they're both after the fact. Somehow, too many people have tried to scam on RDAP, and, some of these prison consultants ran some really, really shady outfits like RDAP law consultants, Tony Pham and a fake name, Ang Nugent, those guys out of Ohio, I think, or Connecticut. And, these guys got in trouble. They put a lot of people in bad situations, took a lot of money from a lot of people and didn't help them at all, trying to game them into RDAP. And, they ended up getting indicted. They were sentenced. I think Tony Pham, I did a video on it. I think he received, it was 5 years or 7 years or something like that. But he won't be able to do RDAP again because he already did it. So there's no guarantee that that's going to get you into RDAP. We just received a document from a client that their loved one is in, I forgot what location they're at, and they didn't have it in their pre-sentence report. So they had a evaluation done after the fact, and the RDAP coordinator actually gave them a PDF that stated what she was requiring in order for them to qualify for RDAP is that they wanted to see specifically that the defendant, the client, the inmate at this time, that the inmate had documentation from a licensed chemical dependency professional prior to the pre-sentence interview. Luckily, this client actually did. This client was seeing a chemical dependency therapist, or a therapist that also was licensed in chemical dependency, that was able to write up an evaluation that was done prior to the indictment, showing that they did have issues. So this client should still be able to get into RDAP. But if that's the case, and for some of you, the RDAP coordinator can deny you even after the fact. So there's no really rhyme or reason all the time. But you just got to be really careful. Anybody you talk to and that's why I say, book a consultation with us. It's worth $195, because if you talk to a consultant or anybody else out there, even an attorney that tells you guarantee to get into RDAP if you do this, this, and this, or you hire this person, you get this evaluation done, and it's not in the pre-sentence report. Now, if it's in the pre-sentence report, chances are, if you meet all the factors, like you were sentenced to enough time, you don't have a violent crime, there was no guns, it wasn't a sex offense, and hands-on sex offense, I should more specifically state, then, all things considering, you'll probably be a good candidate and qualify for RDAP. But if it's not in the pre-sentence report and somebody's promising you or kind of alluding to the pie in the sky, it's questionable. And this is why during this consultation, any documentation that you have, if you have your pre-sentence report, you can send it over ahead of time. If you don't have it, get it from your attorney. If you schedule one of these interviews and you pay $195, and on the call, it just immediately is deemed that you never should have made this call, there's no way in the world you'll qualify, we'll refund the money. But the whole point of this is so we have time and the resources to do the time and the effort and the work and do the research to find out if you are going to qualify. And then there's other factors when it comes to RDAP. When the program starts at different facilities, start dates. So, most of you here, will actually jump over to my website real quick. We have an FAQ page, which this link here, I'll drop this. This link is also in the description of the video. It's right on the website. Let's drop this link. Hey, what's going on? We got Federal. What's up, Federal Prison Talk? What's going on, my man? So if you let's share the screen. All right, let's go right here. Okay, let's hide my face. And I apologize, that banner is going to be in the way, but we'll just have to work with it. It's my advertising banner, guys. You got to let me have a little bit going on here. So we have on our website, we have an FAQ section. What is the residential drug abuse program? Can the RDAP program benefit state prisoners? But the one that for some of you, here, let's go down to the bottom. How much time will I get off and who decides? So the last question, right? So you click on that, expands out. So if your sentence is 24 to 30 months, it should say you can earn up to 6 month sentence reduction. If your sentence is 31 to 36 months, you can earn up to 9 months. And if your sentence is 37 months or more, you can earn up to 12 months. However, it is based on when you enter the program, not just the sentence imposed. So if you're sentenced to 24 months, and let's give you a good example here, 24 months is the minimum based on this, right? If your sentence is 24 to 30 months, so 24 months is the minimum. If you're sentenced to 24 months, or even if you were sentenced to, let's say you're sentenced to like 25, 26 months, and you've got 30 days credit, maybe you did some time in county jail. If you get to prison and the next program doesn't start for 2 or 3 months, that time counts, right? So now you're going to go below the threshold of what's required to get the time off. So if you're sentenced to 24 months and you're like, whew, thank God I can get 6 months off for RDAP, and you're all excited, everyone's told you, oh, you get 6 months off. You get there, it doesn't start for 30 to 60 days. You're going to miss the cutoff and you no longer qualify. So one of the things that you can do on your own, or if you're a client of ours, one of the things that we do is once you're sentenced and once you're designated, we know where you're going. Let's say you're going to, my mind just totally jumped into a blank here. Coleman Low. We know Coleman Low has RDAP, right? You're 24 months, you're going to Coleman Low. And you find out you're going to Coleman. What we would do is we would contact Coleman, find out when the next RDAP class is going to start, whether we do it through the prison psychologist, whether we do it through inmate or other resources that we have. We find out when the next program is. And if it doesn't align with your surrender date, which most of the time it will not align with your surrender date because RDAPs don't start on the daily. They're usually 30, 60, 90 days is when they cycle through. And if we find out when that start date is, we can then go back. We can prepare a letter, a narrative of sorts, that will be given to your attorney that he'll file as a motion requesting to change your self-surrender date to anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks prior to the RDAP start date. Now, and sometimes we don't necessarily ask for an extension to push it out. If RDAP is starting before you surrender and we don't know when the one is going to start after that, you sometimes may want to request a sooner surrender date to align yourself to make sure you put yourself in the best possible situation to be able to get into RDAP. Because once you get to prison, you still got to go through the process. You got your release date has to appear. So if you go to like the BOP.gov and you do an inmate lookup, for those of you that have friends and family in the BOP, you can put in the register number or their name and you can see when the release date is. Well, when you first get to prison, your release date doesn't always automatically show up right away. Sometimes it can take a week to 3 weeks for that release date to populate. They can't put you in RDAP until your release date is updated in the system. If you have any detainers, any warrants, things of that nature, that can prevent you from getting into RDAP. If you have a crime that prevents you from going to the halfway house, that will prevent you from getting into RDAP. Now, there are some crimes where, there's some levels of violent crimes or some sex offenses where you can take RDAP, but you don't qualify for the sentence reduction portion, meaning you can take the program, but you're not going to get any time off for it. Now, you might get some additional halfway house time. It still looks better if you do it. But many of you think just because you qualify for it, you automatically also qualify for the time off, which is the sentence reduction portion of RDAP. And the two are separated from each other. You don't necessarily qualify automatically for the time off. That could be a big game changer for a lot of you. It is a volunteer program. So if you do take RDAP and you're in it for a couple of weeks, all of a sudden they come back and say, hey, we're glad you're here, but you're not getting any time off for this. Well, hopefully you still want to take the program to benefit yourself, to get a handle on whatever the issues were, to make better choices. But you can also remove yourself from the program if you wanted to, and there's no consequence for removing yourself from the program. A lot of people with like the First Step Act, Second Chance, when the whole 2-point conversion came down on drug crimes, nonviolent drug crimes a few years back, some of their outdates changed and they didn't need Rdap. So a lot of people just withdrew from Rdap. Rdap for me was life-changing experience. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, but it was also something that I drastically needed. And Rdap is not solely about drugs and alcohol. It's about poor choices. It's about focusing on consequences. We're going to do another video on RSAs, irrational self-analysis, which is a big portion of Rdap on the RSAs, kind of thinking through your mind of potential consequences before you act. You know, somebody says, hey, you want to get in the car and go for a ride while you're living in the halfway house, or you know, you get in a fight, you had a couple of drinks and you're about to go drive. Well, you program yourself to start doing these RSAs where you run through some scenarios in your head and you kind of see yourself, what if I got in the car? What if I got pulled over? What if I got a DUI? What if I killed somebody? You start running these scenarios through your head, and it kind of helps modify the course of action that you're going to take on and making better choices. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I know it sounds simple. It's like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. Well, no, you don't, because you're going to federal prison. So you don't do it all the time. You should do it all the time. I should do it all the time. And, you know, I don't either, which is half the reason why I'm getting back into working out, because I wasn't doing RSAs while I was sitting there eating pizza and wings and, you know, having a beer on a Friday night instead of going out and doing something exercising. This weekend, we're going to go kayaking. There's a place called Riverbend in Jupiter where Shelly and I are going to go take some kayaks. We're going to go through the river and have some fun, have some lunch, probably bring a little picnic basket. It's going to be a nice little date night. Sorry, that was a horrible sound. I'm drinking iced coffee, so that was an ice cube. All right. Don't you guys love the videos with me? I make just weird noises and say random stuff off the side. Let's see. Okay, we also, another great resource. Remember, all these links, the things that I'm showing you right now, all of this stuff is, there's links to all of this on the description of this video. So FAM, and for those of you that don't know who FAM is an amazing resource. Families Against Minimum Mandatories. They're not just fighting for minimum mandatories. They have a whole plethora of information that they take your shirt off, Dan. Stay. They have a whole plethora of information that they provide surrounding around people, helping them with post-incarceration, people that are in, what they can do. But let's bring you to the share screen. Let's pop up here. So FAM. And this link brings you directly to the section of Rdap. They have a whole, how many pages is this thing? It is 14 pages, which is great. It's a PDF, and it really goes over the every I is dotted, every T is crossed. This goes over everything around Rdap, who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, what crimes can prevent you, you know, gun crimes, enhancements. A lot of you. And so the link here, you know, because I'm so nice, I'm just going to drop this right in the live chat as well. There you go. Okay. So that's a link. If you want to get that document, I would say, and you can download it once you go there. It's a great document for you it's a great document for your attorney to have. If you're trying to, if you can't afford a consultant, you can't hire us for our services. This is some great information, some gold nuggets you can take with you as a parting gift from me to you. But let's go back to my beautiful face here. And, you know, getting into Rdap is half the battle. You know, it's and I was actually going to say something and I totally forgot because I was talking about my beautiful face. FAM. Oh yeah. Gun charges. So some of you maybe had a gun charge and the charge was dropped. Now, if your gun charge was dropped, ask your attorney, are you still getting the 2-level enhancement for sentencing purposes? If you're still getting the 2-level enhancement, even though they dropped the charge, if you still have the 2-level enhancement, it still prevents you from Rdap. It prevents you from the sentence reduction. And it is an absolute kiss of death for so many. It really just yanks the rug right from underneath them because they're so excited. Like, oh, they dropped this charge. I can now qualify for Rdap. It's going to cut all this time off of my sentence. And then they find out from me, negative Dan, who always wants to rain on everybody's parade and make them do more time in prison because it gives me joy. Sometimes that's how I feel. I almost want to lie and just say, oh yeah, you're good. Because I hate giving that negative information. And usually I'm not giving it to the individual. I'm giving it to like a wife or a son or a daughter, you know, older son or daughter that's trying to do this. And they find out and they're like, oh, you can just hear the devastation and the blowing blow that it takes. And it really is. It takes a lot out of me mentally when I have these conversations. Sometimes I'll see a consultation pop up, right? Because people fill out the information on the link, they put in what they're calling about, and they'll put in there in the notes some people do really good jobs with filling in details on the notes. The more detailed, the better. And I'll read the details and it's like, oh, I don't want to take this call. I don't want to have this consultation because I already know where it's going, and I already know the information is not going to be what they want to hear. But I also know that they'll talk to somebody else that will 100% tell them the information they want to hear, just to get, a couple bucks out of them. So don't allow yourself to get taken advantage of. And I shouldn't say don't allow yourself, do your best to not be taken advantage of. Do your homework. Lately it's been like the gloves have gone on because I've been battling with these other consultants that the information is just fucking horrendous. It's horrendous. And some of these consultants were people that are really good in the industry. Wendy, I'll check on that in a minute, and I'll send you the link also, Wendy, for the free consultation. But some of these guys that were kind of pioneers in the industry, they went rogue and they started hiring like sales guys to do the calls for them. And I guess, the sales guys are probably, I don't know if there's a salary in place there. I imagine there's some kind of a commission bonus structure. So, I can only assume that some of these guys are saying what they need to say to get the sale done. And I've had a couple clients that will call me after the fact, that hire me after, and it's almost heartbreaking. And they can't leave because, they try to get their money back. And if they threaten to leave a review, the company threatens to sue them, and the company threatens to put all their information back on the review. And then if they do give any kind of a refund, they've got to sign something saying they're not going to post any negative reviews. So it's just real shitty work. And it keeps their rating looking great, but you're not seeing all the behind the scenes, just mud. They're just patching hole after hole. And it comes from some place deep down where greed overtakes ethics. And I'm guilty of failing in ethics myself in several occasions, many before prison, even some after prison, but trying to own it and move forward from that and not continue that perpetuating wheel is it's something you got to stay focused on, because it's real easy to tell somebody what they want to hear, and I know you guys don't like being in that situation. You're going through enough as it is. You're dealing with tons of legal fees. You go to your attorney with questions, and sometimes you come back with more questions than answers. So it makes it a real difficult time and a real difficult challenge to know who you can believe, who you can trust, and what you should do next. And you might get tons of conflicting information when it comes to narratives and reference letters and how many you need and how you should write them and what should go in it. And this person pokes holes in that, and this person pokes holes in that. So everybody's throwing stones. But there's a need for this service 100%. And Rdap is something everybody's interested in, and more people will probably qualify for it than they might think. I think a lot of people just assume to qualify for Rdap, you have to be, like a heroin addict or living on a park bench, shooting up needles, or, snorting bales of cocaine, swallowing pill after pill, driving recklessly, falling asleep at the wheel, having tons of DUIs. No, you can be, a regular drinker. You can be somebody that smokes, a couple tokes of marijuana before bed. You shouldn't be in a situation where you're determining whether or not you qualify or not. Just foreclose all that information, give it all to the probation officer and have it in the report, and then let the Rdap coordinator decide. And if you go in there locked and loaded with a substance abuse intake form that kind of goes through all of your daily use, when you started to now to whenever you stopped, having more information to back up factual information is really what's going to position you for the best possible outcome. Being ready for these pre-sentence interviews is no joke. It shouldn't be taken lightly. You shouldn't walk in there empty-handed. And if you don't know what to do at your pre-sentence interview, and it's coming up shortly, and you haven't really been kind of, prepped for this, that could be an issue, because that pre-sentence report is probably the single most important document that you're going to have from the point of pleading guilty until you get out of prison, because that pre-sentence report, it is really the key to so many different doors. on how to qualify for programming, First Step Act. A lot of things happen from that pre-sentence interview. So being prepared is going to give you a edge over the average person for sure. A lot of people are like, oh, I've got the worst judge and he doesn't go easy on anybody. So to me, that's just some self-defeating bullshit that's giving you a reason to not try. Maybe the judge is a hard judge. Maybe the judge doesn't give many favors, but I'm telling you guys, I've seen it, and we've had interviews with clients that have gone through it. You guys all remember Todd Hansen. He had one of the notoriously most brutal judges in South Florida, nicknamed Hang 'em High Harry. And he got a very favorable sentence, way below what he thought he was going to get based on recommendations, guidelines, things of that nature. So don't just assume that things are going to be done just because it's on a piece of paper. There's so many ways to skin a cat. When it comes to the First Step Act, you can get up to a year off for just that. Then you can get your year off potentially for Rdap. You can get up to potentially a year of a halfway house. And then you got your good time on top of that. So it's not hard to knock off three plus years off of a sentence. Does anyone ever get probation? That's a great question. Let's go ahead and showcase that. And boom, we showcased it. Look at that's a pretty good meme you got there, Mr. Gucci. You got to go sell some of that Gucci money right there for the attorney. But yes, people do get probation. We've had clients if you send me a message, I can send you some links. We've actually interviewed some clients that we've worked with that should have, well, when I say should have, their guidelines called for prison. The prosecutor wanted prison. Their attorney thought they were going to go to prison. The judge was ready to hand out a prison sentence, and due to the work and the effort and, just really putting feet on the ground here and not just doing what everybody else does, probation, and usually it's a combination of probation, like home confinement, which that's a win in my book. But yes, probation does happen. It's not all of the time. A lot of people go, I got my client probation. And you look, the guidelines were probation. It was like 0 to 6 months. The people that we showcase that get probation are ones that were, 3 to 5 years is what they were calling for. And the judge departed from the recommended guideline range. You've got recommended. So when you look at your guidelines, you've got recommended guidelines, and then sometimes you have mandatory minimums. Mandatory minimum is really hard to get around unless, there's you got a different factors can get underneath a minimum mandatory. However, if it's just the guideline range, the guideline range is advisory. So the judge is being advised of the guidelines, and he's being advised that these are the typical guidelines based on this crime, loss amount, all the other factors taken into play. But yes, you can get probation. The judge can go below the recommended guideline ranges. The judge just can't go below minimum mandatories unless there's things like safety valves and things like that in play. But for most cases, yes, probation is an option. It is on the table. It's not common, doesn't happen to everybody. So, but we never build the expectation with our clients. There are a couple that we were pretty strong that were like, all right, this is a probation case. We kind of knew it going into it. But for the average client we deal with, we know probation is a long shot. Our objective is to see a downward departure from the guideline range. That's a victory in itself. And more than that, even if you get sentenced within the guideline range, our job is not just to get you a shorter sentence. Those of you that have worked with us, that the mindset, dealing with the day-to-day, what you tell your kids, how you prepare, getting your mindset right, these all play a factor in how you're going to sleep at night, how you're going to maintain and manage your anxiety, how you're going to get from one day to the next without wanting to jump off of a bridge. That alone is a victory, because you guys all know, I've told you before, the pretrial phase of what you're going through right now is really the real prison sentence for most of you. This is the absolute hardest part about this. The prison sentence for most of you, it sucks. You don't want to go. You're going to miss friends and family and food and things of that nature. But once you get there, you're going to realize that it's not that bad, that the pretrial, the phase of not knowing, the unknown territory, that's the real nightmare. It's just nightmare after nightmare. How much time am I going to get? When am I going to get sentenced? How long is this going to drag out? What do I got to do now? Every time your attorney calls, your anxiety rises through the roof. You're not sleeping at nights. You're arguing with your wife. You're yelling at your kids. You're blamed. You go through these emotional roller coasters, and it kind of feels like you're dying inside slowly. What we do here as part of the services and the counseling and the life coaching that we do is to really kind of help you challenge these thoughts and realize you're not the victim in this. This didn't just mysterically happen to you. You weren't walking down the street one day and the Fed just, oh, we're going to indict this guy right here. It looks like he looks indictable. No, most of us did something to put ourselves in the scope of the federal government. Doesn't mean we deserve to necessarily go to prison, but we weren't paying attention to what consequences, RSA, we weren't paying attention to the consequences that could come from the bending and kind of, finagling what we were doing. We got so comfortable and complacent doing things the way we're doing it, that didn't even feel like we were doing anything wrong anymore. At least for my situation, and many of my clients are in the same type of a boat. So with that said, we work on that mindset and not allowing you to go into victim mentality. We want you to talk to your wife about this. We want you to talk to your kids. We want you to give your wife the playing field and the ability to really express how angry she is, or how angry your husband might be at you for putting them in this situation. Giving them the ability to a speaking platform to where they don't just go, I got to walk on eggshells because, Jim's already going through so much. I don't want to make it worse for him. Well, it's going to get worse at some point. And if your spouse, your loved one, your family, your child, your brother, your sister, if they don't start dealing with it now on expressing how this is affecting them, once it processes after you go to prison, that's when the real resentment might kick in. So part of what we do is working through that now, dealing with the families. That's why we have the Facebook group, which I don't have a link for that right now. Sorry, it might be in the description of the video. Actually, I think it is. Our Facebook group is a family group of individuals that either have loved ones that are incarcerated, or if somebody's gone through it themselves. And on the flip side now, the face group is designed to give the whole communities method, people helping people, because just to know that there's other people out there that have gone through what you're going through right now, and they got through it and they didn't die. They didn't become some criminal that's got a million tattoos, and, they weren't shanked and they weren't extorted and they weren't all of these horrible things that we read about on TV. It gives you a little bit of like, all right, if this person got through it, they seem like a pretty normal person. If they got through it, why can't I? And it's rebuilding your confidence in yourself to take a stance to move forward. Whew, that's a lot of breath. Thank God I've been walking today. I got my cardio up. Let's see. Joking about getting an RSA was fun. Let me get that. Oh, Juan. Juan's one of our Juan is one of our most notable clients. Real name's not Juan. That's his pseudonym on here. But Juan is one of our most notable clients. Everybody in the company, whenever they always ask, how is Juan doing? Years have gone by since Juan has been a client. He's gone to prison, came out, kind of went back, came out again on a violation, but a really good guy. Just, he went through his own crash test dummy phase. But definitely one of the better people I've met in life. Never met him in person, but good person. But notable. Should be a character on TV. So if I plead to 5 years, you are saying the judge can lower that. Without knowing anything about your case, yes, unless you have a minimum mandatory of 5 years. I don't know what you have a minimum mandatory, what your crime was. But if it's just if the guidelines are plea, now it also depends on what kind of plea you have. There's there's C pleas, there's pleas that where it's like, this is what you're pleading to. The judge is out of it. This is what you're getting. You can't argue for anything. The best thing I could say is set up a consultation, and if you have some documents, if you have your plea agreement, we can kind of go over it with you, and then I can give you a little bit more insight as to what you may or may not be able to do or what you could expect. But if you've got a plea deal where you, like my sentence, I had a cap of 60 months. The judge couldn't give me more than 60 months. My guidelines were ridiculous, and he could have gone all the way down to probation if he wanted to, but he ended up departing to 42 months from 60 months. So I saw a nice departure, downward departure from the guideline range. So it just really depends on your situation. I'd have to look at your documents to, it's kind of a loaded question you asked there, because there's so many unknown variables that I don't know to answer that the right way. What else? Did I forget anything? Is there any questions about Rdap? Because this video is obviously about Rdap. And, I can't stress it enough, guys. This isn't about, collecting $195 from you guys. This is about putting you in a situation and making sure that you're not going into a situation the wrong way. So it could be the best $195 you spent, or it could be, all right, I spent the $195. I confirmed what I knew, but at least now I'm not doubting myself. Or you're like, holy shit, I'm glad I spent this because I need to hire these guys or else. And that $195 would go towards the cost. And what the cost is depends on the services you need. It could be anywhere from a couple grand to $1 million. No, it's never going to be that much. But we're not the cheapest guy in the neighborhood, but we're definitely not the most expensive. That's what everybody probably says, huh? I wouldn't trust me either. All right, guys. That's all I got for this Taco Tuesday. Speaking of, I can smell the tacos. Shelly's in there making chicken tacos. They smell fantastic. Hope you guys all enjoy your week. I'm going to try to get back on here. Today's Tuesday. It was planning on doing it Monday, Wednesday, so now I have to prep again, but it might be Thursday, and then we won't be back on until after Easter. So if I don't get on this week, you guys all have a happy Easter. For those of you that celebrate, if you got little ones out there and you're going through a really stressful time, go buy some Easter eggs, go hide them around the house. Put a smile on your face and pretend like everything's fine, or put the bunny costume on and cry through the mask where they can't see the tears. So if I plead to 5 years, you were saying, oh, that's the same question. Okay. But yeah, Tenno CO, in the description of this video, there's the link for the Rdap, which is the $195, but there's also a free consultation link for just some basic info, and this would fall under that. You don't have to pay for that consultation. So go in the description of this video and you'll see the another link a little further down for booking consultation with Dan. If not, my phone number and everything's on there. My email, just shoot me an email if you don't see it. All right, guys, I'm Rdap Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People helping people, communities method, one day at a time. Hope you guys all stay safe. Be nice to somebody. And remember, as hard as it is right now, you're going to get through this. You will return on the other side, and you'll be all that much stronger. All right, guys, love you. Be safe. I'm out of here.